Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Maureen Gribble with UE Systems, and today we wanted to invite our current OnTrak customers, those of you that have been using our OnTrak system for the past couple of years, to join us to learn all about our brand new OnTrak Wireless. We're so excited about it, and we wanted to give you all a sneak peek into what it is, how it works, and how we can help those of you that are already using the wired version transition over to the wireless if that's of interest to you. So we are going to dive into that in just a moment, but just before that, just as we always like to do, just a couple of housekeeping things for you. So we are recording this, so if you've got to hop off or if you've got other team members that this is going to be important information for them to hear, we are recording it and we will share the recording with you, either later today or tomorrow, but we'll make sure you get that. We also really want to hear your questions, your feedback. We're still learning things as we go along with this, and your feedback, especially as existing customers of our OnTrak. It's going to be really great to hear, and we welcome any engagement and participation that you've got. So we will have time for all of that at the end. And, depending on how active you all are, and I know I just encouraged it, if we don't get to everything, obviously we will 100% be in touch with you offline to make sure we get all of your questions and feedback responded to. So not to worry about that. And then, of course, we do always like to remind, we are doing this live. So if all of a sudden my internet goes out, we did have some crazy storms come through yesterday, or audio issues, all of the things, just bear with us and know that we do try to make this, we want to be engaged with you guys, in this environment. So just accommodate us for any potential technical issues we've got. So with that said, I'm going to do our first potential technical issue thing here right now. I'm going to turn things over to Blair. So bear with me here as we toggle screens. And let's see. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. It's Blair Fraser speaking here from UE Systems, and I really appreciate you, first of all, joining us today as we talk about the new OnTrak wireless system, but also as an opportunity to thank you. We released the OnTrak wired solution about 3 years ago, and this is a call dedicated to those that have existing OnTrak wired solutions today, and we wanted to give you the opportunity to look at the new OnTrak wireless solution, and if there is a right fit, of course, to upgrade to this new solution. It's important to note as we go through this, we still support the OnTrak wired solution. We still have spares. We can still expand with the wired solution. But as our existing partners in the OnTrak solution, we did want to offer you an opportunity, if there's value, to upgrade to the OnTrak wireless solution. So before we get into the how we upgrade, I want to talk a little bit about the solution itself. So brought this to market was the lubrication piece of it, the fact that we could detect when and how much grease is required for that bearing, and of course automatically apply grease. The benefit of this solution is really making it sit in the market, including winning some awards over the last few years for the solution and bringing this solution to market. And it's becoming more and more clear that the value is, while we do very, very well at detecting a fault, the value proposition of the solution is being able to prevent it. Prevent it how? Well, we're still looking at being able to prevent what causes up to 80% of premature bearing failure, which is a problem with lubrication. And just like the solution you have today, you're addressing the 4 pillars of what causes that 80%. Not just the right grease at the right time, but making sure it's the right grease and it's contaminant free. And it's our commitment. We have been in the ultrasound space for 50 years, and we will continue to invest and make sure our engineering technology is constantly evolving to meet industry standards. So just like your OnTrak wired solution, there's four main components. Now it's important to note these components are not interchangeable, and there's a lot of reasons behind why we didn't build on the existing platform, and I'll get into those in more details. And I will take a minute here. If you do have any questions, feel free to use the chat in here, plop them in there, and we'll get them in real time, or we'll address them all at the end. So with this new OnTrak wireless solution, there's four main components, just like with your wired. But really at the heart of it, and the same with your wired solution, is the ultrasound sensor. Why ultrasound? Well, two reasons. One is we're an ultrasound company, and two, that's what we use as the primary measurement value to look at the lubrication and health of the bearing. Now, as you can see here with the 950 BT, we did add vibration, speed, and temperature to this sensor. And of course, there's a reason why we've added that, and we'll get into that. So at the heart of the system is the new 950 BT sensor. We did reimagine the lubricator as well. The move forward to wireless allows us to communicate in bigger data packets than we could with a wired solution. So while we still have a lot of confidence that we have in the wired solution, we added upon that to get more variables in to look at the health of that lubricator as well. Is it performing the way we'd want it to perform? Because if we can't get grease into that bearing, none of the sensing technology matters. Now, we did completely rewrite UE Insights. We have taken 3 years worth of insights and global deployments and tried to re-engineer it so that out of the box we can check as many check boxes as possible. In particular, that goes to enterprise level deployments. So if you are an OnTrak wire customer that has multiple OnTraks through multiple plants, and we've gone through those IT discussions, we wanted to engineer that in upfront. So when IT asked, do you do single sign-on? Do you have two-center authentication? We can say, yes, out of the box. So what we decided there was to completely rewrite UE Insights from the bottom up. There's not a single line of code that we have used from the previous one to the new one. And of course, because everything is wireless, we are looking at a new gateway, and we'll go through those in more details. So those are the four main components of the OnTrak wireless solution. And I can see here that some of our beta customers, or beta partners, I should say, sorry, are on this call, and we thank you. And for those that weren't a beta customer, some background. What we do is when we launch a new product to market through UE Systems, we do alpha testing. Alpha testing is in our labs, it's in New York, it's in various other engineering offices we have, and we put it through the gauntlet, if you will. We try to ensure we have the repeatability, the accuracy we need from an ultrasound sensor, and the system works in a lab environment. And one thing we know is a lab environment is very, very different than an industrial environment. So that once we pass the alpha testing, which is everything meets our standards, we move to beta testing. Now you have been beta testing now for almost a year. And what we wanted to see was the influence of temperature, the influence of other machines running beside it, things like that, to see what would happen in this solution. And we did have to change. And for those, I'm not going to mention the customer name, but you can probably see and recognize your plant here. We appreciate it. We appreciate okay, we have to make another visit the site. We have to change the sensor. And I jokingly say, I can tell you 52 ways not to make an autonomous lubrication and health system. So we have been through numbers of iterations of this product, and we want to make sure that we bring the best to market. So as you look at these installation pictures, it'll give you an idea of what the new system looks like. It's very, very similar to what you have today. Of course, there's no wires. Now the sensor's a bit longer, if you will, because there's a battery pack in the Bluetooth. The lubricator looks identical, except there's no cord coming out of it. What you're seeing here in the picture is our grease feeding adapter, which works very well on motors. In order to mount that lubricator and sensor with ease. We still have our traditional epoxy mount, we still have magnetic mounts, and we still have these fin mounts. If you actually look to the left of your screen here, if you can see my mouse, this is a fin mount. And what we were doing here was testing the various mounting options to ensure that this system would work with all mounting types. So while this works for some, you may have guarding, we may be more concerned about movement of the asset, where this wouldn't be the best fit. A big change in our partnership with you guys, our customers, is we understood that the installation process of the OnTrak wired was cumbersome. Anytime you need to run wires, there's extensive labor involved. There's no way around it. A lot of you are in facilities where you do require conduit, even though it doesn't need to be in, and there's some standards you need to follow. So what we were seeing was larger OnTrak projects with a wired version. The cost of installation could match or exceed the actual cost of the solution itself. So what we're seeing is with the wireless, the installation and commissioning becomes a lot easier. In fact, one of the most common feedback we have is, do you guys have the ability to install this equipment? Because you, as our partners, have resource limitations. We understand that, especially if you're looking for a proof of concept and things like that. So one thing we are very, very proud to offer with all new wireless projects is certified UE systems specialists will install, commission, and monitor your data with you. So I'll say that again. With all new OnTrak wireless solutions, UE systems will send certified ultrasound vibration lubrication specialists to come in and do the installation commissioning, and we have a dedicated team looking at your data. A lot of you have talked to Tim, Kelly, likes of those people with your OnTrak wired. They are here, and we've grown that team in order to make sure that when you have a question, and that we can proactively work with you to monitor and manage the health of that bearing. So with each new wireless project, you have a dedicated customer success that you can reach out through email, through telephone, but also something that's very new is through the platform itself, you can talk with live UE system specialists through the platform. So as we look at this new sensor, as I said, this is really the heart of the solution itself. Well, everything else is nice. We needed to have it match the technology advancements of our sensor. This is really the heart of the system. We have been providing ultrasound equipment for the last 50 years, and it's our commitment to maintain our spot as the ultrasound company to lead the innovation. And I think this sensor sets us apart. This is an ultrasound first sensor. So everything that we have designed in this sensor is designed to make sure that we have the accuracy, repeatability, and sensitivity of an ultra probe in a wireless sensor. So many of you on this call today use our ultra probes series of instruments, handheld instruments, to route base or manually assess the health and lubrication needs of your bearing. So what we wanted, and this was a lofty goal that we had in engineering, was that we wanted whether you took the data with an ultra probe or you had it with a 950 BT, this sensor you see in front of you, the data was just as accurate, repeatability, and with the same sensitivity. And that's, if you start to see some ultrasound sensors come to market, that's the one thing you need to be able to work out, be able to look at is what's its ability, that dynamic range, what's its ability to detect a very, very subtle change within that ultrasound. And that's something called the dynamic range. And that's what we had to ensure is that while we can measure at that high frequency, can we sense subtle changes that bearing needs lubrication? And that's what we had to engineer into the solution. So everything from the weight to how the electronics are mounted, and that mass of steel at the bottom, it's stainless steel, is the perfect mass to resonance at that ultrasound level. But we didn't stop there. One of the big benefits, and many of you have helped us drive this innovation forward, of asking, what would you want in a wireless ultrasound sensor? One of the greatest features of our ultra probes is the ability to listen to those bearings. For those of you that have ultra probes, you understand the value of putting those headphones on and listening to that bearing. So how do we do that in a wireless sensor? Do we put a headphone jack on a wireless sensor? Of course not. What we did is we engineered and designed a way for this sensor to record, capture, and transmit a high fidelity audio signal, just like you would, heterodyned audio signal, just like you would with an ultra probe, but in this sensor. So can you imagine this? You're anywhere in the world, and you said, I want to listen to this bearing. You hit a button. There is some latency. Of course, it has to capture that sound, send it to the cloud. But anywhere in the world, you can hit a button and you can listen to that bearing. We took it one step further. You can actually take that sound file, just like what you would an ultraprobe, and analyze it through Spectralyzer. Do a full FFT. Look at the ball pass frequencies. All that information you would normally do, you can do with this sensor. So again, walk you through a scenario. You're somewhere, you're responsible for multiple plants. You're hundreds of miles away from this plant. Your boss said, hey, I've got concerns about this. Let me listen to this. Why don't you hear it? You can email that wave file around. Listen to this bearing versus its twin brother, right? That is engineered in this solution. And that is hopefully very valuable to you. Now, of course, we were remiss if we didn't admit that there is things that vibration can capture, particularly faults that happen in the machine, misalignment, soft foot, those type of fault modes that don't necessarily resonate into the bearing until later. So we wanted to ensure that we had a sensor that can encompass as many failure modes as possible. So we did add vibration and temperature to the sensor, and I'll get into more of that. And I will answer your questions here at the end. And again, why rest on our laurels? We said, you know what, we are revamping the sensor. We need to relook at the lubricator as well. So one thing that the moving to wireless, into particular Bluetooth, allowed us to do was send more information. So while we had the grease level, while we had a back pressure sensor, we didn't know that the back pressure sensor would trip, and it would ensure that we didn't ruin the bearing on the lubricator. But it was a fault that happened at the lubricator itself. So now we're able to send that information of what the exact error code is back to UE Insights. So we have more confidence that this lubricator is working and is healthy. So what we do is we don't just send an error code. When it gets to UE Insights, it's a recommended action. So I'll give you an example. You will see an alert pop up that says excessive back pressure detected. And we will walk you through the steps of resetting that alert, of what you need to do in order to ensure that the grease pathway is not clogged, and of course reset everything back to normal. And just like our sensor, we measure the battery percentage. So we give you that battery percentage of life remaining. So with this lubricator, you should have confidence that your lubricator, even if it's just sitting there dormant, just waiting to put grease in, is ready when it needs to be, that there's grease in it, and then there's enough battery for this lubricator to work. When it comes to this lubricator, your existing grease pouch will work in this lubricator. So it'll work in this lubricator, so we can reuse if you choose and if there's value, and we will work with you to ensure there's a commercial model that works for you. If you choose to move to this wireless solution, we can reuse those existing grease packs, the existing grease lines, the existing fittings that you have today. So everything is backwards compatible from the lubricator point of view. So when we look at this from a holistic monitoring and lubrication point of view, with a combination of ultrasound and vibration, we use ultrasound for that early stage bearing defect, for the lubrication faults, and of course do that precision autonomous lubrication. But we also add it and confirm with vibration around machine faults, misalignments, mechanical looseness, and balance, belt issues. If you have a pump, we can look at vane issues, things like that, right? It becomes very, very specific to the asset you're doing. The technology works on the exact same way the wired works, is we're monitoring that bearing friction in real time. When it senses it, that friction goes up, it will automatically apply that right amount of grease to restore that bearing friction. We are proud to offer fully autonomous lubrication. So our experts are monitoring your system. They're responding to your alerts and they're working with you. I'm going to make this up. I don't know if there is a John on the call, but I'll give you an example. We might reach, hey John, just want to make sure you've seen this alert. We're seeing high level of ultrasound, and now we're seeing a high level of bearing defect frequency in the vibration signal, right? We can do this all through the platform. So our experts that are certified in vibration, ultrasound, and machinery lubrication are there looking at your data with you. This is truly a partnership together. So the new UE Insights is very simple. We're measuring the same thing you would see in your OnTrak wire. We're looking at that friction level, and when it senses it needs it, it'll apply the right amount of lubrication. The same safeguards are in place with your wired solution. We store the max bearing capacity, We look at the bearing history and how much grease has been used, and we're monitoring that friction in real time. So while the sensor may update once an hour, while we're lubricating, we still go into that fast sample mode. We're still pulling data about once every minute to make sure grease is hitting that bearing and to make that decision if it needs to apply more grease or not. The lubricator can dispense, just like with your wired, a third or 0.33 cc's or gram of grease all the way up to 2 grams. This is 100% configurable from UE Insights. So no longer do you have to walk up to the lubricator to select how many grams or cc's is lubricated. We can do that through the platform itself. Now, if you notice, there is an orange line. And what we've been able to do we have now, thanks to customers or partners like you, we have over 30 billion data points. 30 billion data points of the existing OnTrak wired solution. Now, we have seen good bearings being lubricated. We've seen bad bearings being lubricated. We've seen counterfeit bearings and everything in between. And one thing that was very clear as we looked at this, that friction value, that overall decibel level that we make the health and lubrication decisions is the primary value. 99% of the time, this gives us all the information we need. There are some occurrences where things happen in the bearing that the friction doesn't give us the whole story. And this is something that we've been challenged through ultrasound throughout the years, is there other statistical values that are traditionally done in vibration that would make sense in ultrasound? And the challenge with ultrasound is two things. One, it's not an absolute number, it's a differential. And two, with the sensitivity of ultrasound, anything that goes bump in the night, or if you take a measurement with a handheld instrument in different locations, it can provide very different values. Not necessarily from the overall value, but just looking at that time waveform itself. So one thing we were able to bring to market, and this comes from that 30 billion data points, is this concept around impact sensing. What is not only the friction in my bearing, but how much impact there is. Let me tell you why that's important. So we did a comparative study. We have two identical bearings. Both needed lubrication. So as you see, this is an example of a healthy bearing being lubricated. So as you can see here, while it's needed lubrication, the friction level is high and the impact, these white lines are very, very high. And we all know what that sound would sound like when it needs lubrication, right? It's a very loud, almost like rocks in a tumbler sound. Lubrication get applies, it starts to go quiet, and that friction level drops. On a healthy bearing, that impacting goes away. So as you can see here, that impacting went to 3.66. The friction went down to 10 on an unhealthy bearing. Remember, this is exactly the same bearing. We induce a fault into that bearing. If you look at it, that friction level is very, very high, and the impacting is very, very high. When grease is added, it goes quiet. It dropped down to 16. If you remember, the other one dropped down to 10. So still higher, but still within that ISO limit of that 8 decibel change. One thing that's key here is that impacting is still warning. On an unhealthy bearing, the friction may drop, not to the level of a healthy bearing, but it drops. But the impacting is still high. So what we do here is we count the number of peaks and also the amplitude of each peak to give you a very unique insight into the health and lubrication needs of your bearing. While this bearing is unhealthy, it doesn't mean it needs to get replaced. But what you can anticipate is this bearing needing more grease more frequently. And one thing we talked about is that ability to capture that audio signal. Now, we designed this as a feature. Now, it's not supposed to be used every data sample, right? The complexity, the storage, the battery is all designed to be able to do this. And again, I would recommend this, when we first do a first initial baseline. And when there's an event, you grab this spectrum. And what we can do, and if you're not familiar with doing this, our team will do it for you, is we can grab that high fidelity heterodyne audio signal and throw it in Spectralizer. As you can see here, right now we're looking at the time series. We can go over to FFT. We can look at the ball pass frequencies, put harmonic markers in there to get a better idea of what is happening with your bearing. And hopefully that is as powerful as we think it is to you, our partners. And then as we look at these, what we call enhanced insights, as I said, we understand that vibration does add value, and especially on a permanent mount sensor. So what we do is we do a velocity and a full FFT of that acceleration spectrum, and allows us to set up 4 acceleration bands. We will set these alerts up. Now, if you have a background of vibration, you are more than allowed to set up your own parameters. But if you don't, we will work with you to set up those parameters based on that very specific application. Now, with these, we do need more information we would need with your OnTrak wired, especially if it's belt driven, things like that. We need sheave size, stuff like that. But we are committed to working with you to get that information. From that vibrations signal, we also estimate the speed. Now, we're not using a tachometer. It's a speed estimate. It's around plus minus 10%. What it does is gives us enough confidence to be able to look at the RPM or the speed of that bearing and set alert limits based on the speed. So we're not limited to an asset that goes at a single speed. And again, we do have surface temperature that picks up the surface changes of temperature on that bearing. And again, from impacts or ideas from you, our partners, we want to challenge the way we looked at data. This is a great example of those 4 acceleration bands and how we can view those information in UE Insights, how we can view it and how you can view it. This is a great example of the intuitiveness of how to use this platform, how to look back through all your data with a simple drag, drop, slide interface. This is just one of the widgets we have in UE Insights. As you can see here with this waterfall plot, you can look at that change over time. As you can see here, we have frequency versus the max peak of the acceleration. Very specific bands, 1-time orders, 2-times orders, bearing harmonics, things like that. As you can see here, we can plot it over time. You can see that change over time. So no longer are we limited to just a single axis of information. We can look at it as you would as a vibration analysis or an ultrasound analysis person would do. And as I said, we completely redesigned UE Insights. We have feedback from many of you on the call today. I would love to be able to get an alert and click on that alert and take me right to that page in UE Insights. Done. Same philosophy around web-based, so no software to install. As long as you have internet access and a browser, you can access this. Works on a big screen, works on your laptop, works on a PC, works on your cell phone. That same type of intuitiveness and versatility, but designed to be enterprise level. So you can set up a tree hierarchy, starting with your company, individual plants, world areas. You can put things like an image overlay. You can put a Google map image in real time. So if you have a campus or multiple facilities, it will show a map in any of those buildings or assets that are an alert will have a red beside it. So very, very versatile to use. We do start with this dashboard looking at insights. And if you look at here, these are called indicators. So you have ultrasound indicators, vibration indicators. We're looking at very specific failure modes. And if you want to get to the squiggly lines, you can click your way down to the raw data coming in. One of these features I'm going to talk about more here shortly is this ability to communicate with us and do work orders. Not work orders that you need to be compliant to, but our way of communicating with you. Saying, hey, we noticed this belt is loose. You know, when you get a chance, can you fix it? Yep, no problem. Actually, I'm going to be on next. I have a work order created for next Thursday. And the reason we have that is you can acknowledge it and you can also resolve it. So if you have to readjust those alert limits, we'll be there and we can assign that to us. So this work order doesn't get closed until everything's completed and the alert limits are set. And again, one of the biggest features, and it seems simple, was you as our partners asked, I need a more intuitive way to look at this data. I want to just drag and drop. And that's what we've been able to do. What we're doing here is looking at that bearing friction. As you can see, you can go back without having to click in, go to live data, 1 hour, 12 hours, 1 day is completely customizable. And if you want, you can zoom in. You can simply drag and drop your mouse both on the X and Y axis to zoom in here. So hopefully very, very powerful from how UE Insights is used. And this is one of the big features that came out that we were able to develop is this idea of a work order condition management system. So it's an example of a motor that likely needs to get a bearing replaced. And if you see that, there's a history. You can communicate with your UE systems experts through this platform. Everything gets recorded. So, and there's steps in here. So if we do have to re-baseline things like that, that's on us to make sure that we do that. So no more. And if you want to, if you're comfortable communicating with email, text, phone, we can do that. But I recommend using this platform or the features in it so everything's logged. So if you go back in time, hey, when's the last time you replaced this bearing? When's the last time it's lubricated? Everything is logged in the system. And again, our commitment to maintaining UE systems as the ultrasound leader is constantly innovating to ensure full suite of solutions. And one of the feedback we have is, I love my OnTrak data to be combined with the ultra-probe data from a bearing health and lubrication need. So in 2024, we are actively developing a roadmap to integrate all ultra-probe data that has an SD card or the new 15,000 that has Wi-Fi into this platform. So if you are using our grease caddies, our 10,000, 15,000, 9,000s to do bearing health assessments and ultrasound guided lubrication, we plan to have all that data in one location. So how does this whole system come together? We have the OnTrak BT gateway that can communicate up to 40 devices. A lubricator is a device and a sensor is a device. So essentially, with the lubrication feature is 20 bearings. You can deploy this sensor on sealed bearings or assets you just wanted to monitor and manually lubricate without the lubricator. So that's why we put 40 devices. This gateway allows us to communicate up to 1,300 feet, so around 300 meters. Now that is an open space. You get inside a facility wall where there's equipment, there's drywall, there's concrete walls and things like that. That gets dramatically reduced. Our beta testing has told us about 300 feet at full signal strength, about 100 meters, but it can vary. What's very unique is we don't want you to have to worry about what fittings do I need? How many gateways do I need? We simply work and price this on the number of bearings you want on the monitor. Let us figure out how many gateways you need. It doesn't change the price. So as we look at this, from getting that information out from that gateway, we have the traditional three methods that the OnTrak wired have. So whatever you have now, we can mimic that today: Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or cellular. And we're actually very pleased to offer power over Ethernet. So if your company would allow us to go onto the network, we can use a power over Ethernet and actually not require a power outlet for this gateway. We're not limited to where's the closest outlet, but we can push this anywhere. So as we look at the pricing, and as I said, we are going to market with this with your feedback in mind as our partners. We understand that having access to the Tims, the Kellys, the UE systems experts provided tremendous value. We wanted to bring that right to this solution itself. So what we do is we bring this to market as a subscription, a complete hardware, service, and software solution. So what we're offering is a proof of concept for 50 plus bearings at $50 a month. That includes all the hardware, all the installation, lubrication, monitoring services. So that's per bearing per month. Everything's included. You don't have to worry about replacing the batteries. We'll do that for you. You don't have to worry about if that sensor fails. Hey, this is new technology. What happens if it fails? We are on the hook to replace that sensor, that lubricator. We are going to work with you to vet to make sure we pick the right applications that we have the most high probability of success. So our experts are here for you for this project. Now, once you get through that proof of concept and you want to scale, what does that look like after? It depends on how many bearings you want to monitor. Obviously, the more bearings you monitor, it's easier for us to scale and provide that custom service. So you can see here, if you go to our website, one big change we made in 2022 or 2023, was to revamp our website, but we made that decision to truly meet our value of our relentless pursuit for customer excellence. Is we don't want price to be something that's hidden. This is the price. Okay, so you can start to see what that means. So if you start to divide these by 12, you can look at it, that proof of concept is around $500 a month. $500 a year for 30 points, for 50 points. So it becomes very economical to do that. And that is the sensor, the lubricator, grease fitting adapter, if you need remote grease lines, all of that is included. And our experts are doing this with you. They're sitting in their seats, they're looking at your data, they're ready to answer questions. All that is included. Now we understand a lot of you might have, and looking at expansion, and one thing that's happened as this OnTrak Wireless solution has come out is we've gone from this, hey, I want to look at monitoring 100, 200 points, to I want to look at monitoring and precision lubrication of thousands of bearings at my facility. But in order to do that, I justify with a CapEx project. So while this subscription works for a lot of customers, particularly if you're looking at a proof of concept, it works really, really well. And you're more than welcome as our existing users to start at this 50 proof of concept. And if you want to leave your wired solution there and start a new proof of concept with this wireless, we will gladly work with you. Our intent was to limit the risk. So this is a 1-year subscription. We're not asking you to sign 2, 3, 5-year, multi-year agreements. We want to share the risk. That's what a partnership is. So we're asking for a 1-year commitment, installation. We do the installation. We do the commissioning. We do the monitoring. Right? We're asking for a 1-year commitment. But we understand that once it's proven and you want to expand, the subscription model might not work. What does that look like? Well, you can start that first year in a proof of concept, or at any point in time, you can purchase these sensors outright and still have a licensing and support fee that covers everything else we talked about. So, depending on the scale, you can start and you can get the pricing for the sensor, the lubricator, the grease fitting adapter, the grease service pack, the installation, and commissioning. Plus, there is a ongoing support fee to have access to the UE insights, the licensing. We don't license by users to have access to our experts. So to give you an idea, that is still there. What we want to offer you, if you want to move to either the subscription or purchase model and replace your existing wired with wireless. So this is for your existing systems that are out there today. To the number of sensors or bearings you're being monitored with the wired today, we want to give you as if you were one of our largest customers of 5,000 plus. So don't worry about, well, I just renewed my current UE license, all that kind of stuff. What we're proposing to you, and we will give you a formal quote. Don't worry about trying to figure out the math. We'll work with you. So we'll prorate anything we have to and create a custom upgrade plan for you. So if you're ready to transition to the OnTrak Wireless, if you want to replace your existing wired solution to the wireless, we'll work with you on the most as a transition plan that best suits you. Now, if you want to leave that wired there, that's fine. We're continuing to support it. If you need spares, we still have spares. We'll continue to develop them. If you want new assets on the OnTrak Wireless, we're more than willing to work with you on that as well. As our initial early adopters of this, we want to keep you and we want to support you with that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put up a poll question here, and if you would like to set up a meeting to discuss the pricing and develop a transition plan or a new project plan for this OnTrak Wireless, I am more than happy, and the team is ready to meet with you to discuss your applications and your specific need and design a specific plan that meets your criteria, your timeline, and of course, your budget. So this poll question will come up, and if you'd like to schedule a meeting, just click yes, and we'll reach out and we'll get that meeting. And what I'll do here, as that poll question's up, we'll see if there's any questions.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Blair. All right, so let me get this poll question launched here real quick, just so we can start gathering some of that feedback from you guys. So you should see that on your screen, hopefully. Does that work?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, awesome. So I'll leave that up there for just a minute. So we've got a few questions already, and so we'll want to dive right into those here. Okay, so Blair, the first one we got was, what would this look like if the customer wanted to keep their initial wired OnTrak and then move forward with the wireless on new assets, and how would that look? And is that even an option? How would we support that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and something we've thought about internally as the engineering team. And there's really two considerations. So one is, you know, the the new system is fully independent from the existing wired. So um, I guess our intent is not to um, remove the wired solution from the market. Now we are going to phase it out over the next 10, 15 years or so. But one of the considerations we're doing is and I'm a believer that you guys as our partner, our customers have enough platforms already within your facilities, and you don't need another one for the same product. So one of the considerations and why we wanted to talk to you guys about this was does it make sense for us to work on a plan to integrate the existing wired into the wireless platform, which is possible. Of course, it'll likely require us coming to site to do some firmware updates on that gateway. So right now we don't have on the roadmap to integrate the wired solution into the wireless platform, but if there's enough demand and enough of you that want to stay on the wired solution and not replace it, I understand that. We'll work on a roadmap to get that in place. And that's why we're putting that option out there. If you do feel, and we're trying to make it as commercially incentive as possible to move over to the wireless. But again, if there's not enough, there's a demand where people want to keep it. Hey, it works great. I have a lot of success. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We will work on a plan to integrate the existing wired into the wireless.
Okay, awesome. And then as far as the lubricators and the option for, what if somebody is just wanting the sensor and doesn't want the lubricator? What's kind of our solution or our kind of mantra for that?
Yeah, and we're actually seeing more of that as people move to sealed bearings or ceramic bearings, then subsequently come back to lubricated bearings if they have the right process in place. We'll work with you, and our team will work with you on designing the right solution for that. We absolutely will support, of course, using the sensor. It's very powerful on its own. And we also get questions about, I'm not ready or the facility's not ready for complete autonomous. We still want to go out there, and there might be union things in place where you don't want to necessarily displace a human from doing it. Can I use your sensor and it will tell me when I need to go out with the grease gun, increase it? Absolutely. So those two options are there, and we're happy to discuss how that deployment will look for you in particular.
Yeah, we would definitely understand sometimes that building that confidence is a big step in getting these things moving forward. So that's cool. Good to know. All right, well, so if anybody else has other questions, I just wanted to reiterate for those that popped on maybe a couple minutes after we got started, we did record this, so we'll be sharing out the recording with you all. I know we had a couple customers, unfortunately, that couldn't join in because they had firewall issues, so we'll be sure we get with those folks as well. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys joining in with us today. I think hopefully you can see my screen now where I've got just, all the different ways you can be in touch with us and stay connected with us. And, we want to be sure we're supporting you in all your efforts, whether it's OnTrak related or anything else you guys are doing with us at UE Systems. So appreciate you all taking some time out of your day, spending your lunch hour with us if you're in our Eastern or Central time zones. Yeah, we really look forward to those of you that said you are ready to explore this further. You can for sure expect to hear from us. And like I said, for everybody that was on here today, we'll make sure you get the recording of this so that you have it in your back pocket for when your team is ready to take another look and be in touch with us then. So with that, we will let you guys go and enjoy the rest of your day. And Blair, thanks again. And yeah, we'll catch you guys later.
Thank you, everybody.